This episode of JNM Podcast is sponsored by Sophie.
Hello, my name is Ken Herrmann. I'm a nuclear medicine physician in Essen, Germany, and I'm very happy to introduce you to three exciting attendees to discuss healthcare system readiness. And it's my great pleasure to start off and introduce you to Professor Iagaru. He is a professor of radiology nuclear medicine and also the chief of the Division of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging at Stanford University Medical Center. Welcome, Andrei.
Thank you, Ken.
The second guest is Professor Désirée Deandreis. She's a chief of the Nuclear Medicine Division at Gustave Roussy in Paris since 2023. And she's also associate professor for nuclear medicine at the University of Turin in Italy. Welcome, Désirée.
Thank you, Ken.
And last but not least, we are very happy also to have a representative of industry, Dr. Leonhard Schaetz. He's the international head of health system readiness and partnership for Novartis in the area of radioligand therapy. Welcome, Leo.
Thank you, Ken, for having me.
So we talk about diagnostics, and we all know that Lutathera and Pluvicto have been approved. And now the biggest challenge is to make these important and approved medication available to patients. And one reason to think about how we can tackle the scale up is also to make better understand how we actually get our healthcare systems ready. Now, this is a very chunky text, and I have to say, until recently, I was not even aware what it is. So, Leo, you get the difficult job to actually introduce us to healthcare system readiness. What is it?
Thank you. So, healthcare system readiness is basically all about bringing scientific innovation to the patients that have the need and to have them really have impact as well. Because to some extent, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier to control, to kind of have innovation developed in a lab that you then come up with, but then translating it into clinical practice that it makes really patients benefit, then requires a lot more stakeholders. Practically speaking, it's about removing the non-clinical barriers of treatments to treatments. If I want to break it down even more practically, it's that every patient who is eligible based on proven evidence of better outcomes for his disease, that they get access in time, ideally not too far away, to the right RLT for them at the right time, as long as they want that.
So, and why does Novartis care about this, Leo?
It is important. For us as pharma company, of course, innovation is very important. And if we develop innovative drugs that actually really lead to improved outcomes, better quality of life, longer duration of life, and nobody uses them, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for patients who then will not get the benefits of the drugs. It's not good for the doctors that then will not have this as an additional option. And of course, it's not good for Novartis or any pharma company either, because at the end, we develop these drugs to bring them to patients and ultimately, of course, sell them to the healthcare systems as well. That's our business model.
So we have attendees from industry as well as from Europe and the US. And of course, I would like to understand what, from your perspective, in your daily clinical experience, are potential roadblocks and challenges. Maybe, Andrei, we kick it off with you and the US perspective.
Well, this is a very exciting time. As all seems exciting, they're not just opportunities, but also challenges. And being ready is one of the challenge. And one of the biggest things that the challenge, it's the length of time it takes from having an idea to actually opening up a center. In our case, we started planning in 2014-15. Then we opened in 2021. Of course, in the interim, there was a COVID pandemic that slowed us down. But I think that everyone, and I'm looking at our colleagues on the West Coast, UCLA, OHSU, others, you're talking about years, so I'm not talking about months from thinking about a project to opening that project. And of course, it's not just the space, it's the people that will fill up that space, allow for those treatments. So I think this is a segue into the next part of the conversation. I think that it's not just physicians, it's technologists, nurses, physicists, chemists, etc. For me personally, it has been the length of time, despite very supportive colleagues and leadership at our institution.
So, Desi, Europe is very heterogeneous, but we have the big advantage that we have experienced both in Italy and France. Tell us your perspective, please.
Yes, I think as Leo said, and also Andrei, that we need really to give access to patients to these treatments, and even the centers that since many years treat patients with radioligand therapy. Now is a challenging situation because we are increasing number, we're increasing indication and new molecules. So for both experience in Italy and in France, again, time is a little bit our enemy because we need to be ready in short time. We have to train teams. And we really need to work together to have agility in create facilities and increase capacities of our center. So we really need to be ready in the next really few months or years to treat 100 and 1,000 patients. So regulatory environment is very important. We really need to work on that and to decrease time to activate new centers, but also to increase capacity in centers that already give radioligand therapy. And we really need to be sure to have a good really supply chain for radionuclide, radioisotope, and radiopharmaceuticals. So we have patients, we need the radiopharmaceuticals, we need the rooms, and we need a trained team. So these are the different our needs that we have now.
Thank you, Daisy. Leo, I saw you nodding. So please add what Novartis, because you did a lot of research on this topic as well, where you see the key roadblocks.
So key roadblocks, I think some of them came up already. Number one is we have to build capacity. If we are bringing radioligand therapy from what was in the past a niche with a lot of equity issues around, and now it's broader available, building capacity, which of course has an infrastructure dimension to it, but it has especially a workforce dimension to it. That will be a key challenge. Regulation, Désirée mentioned it already. I think so far the regulation, I would say regulators, RLT was too small to care. And now we need to transform this into a regulation that actually fits in terms of what clinical practice at scale requires in order to scale processes in the area of dosimetry and radio safety. And finally, I think it's very important that we need to sort out the patient pathways in the healthcare systems as well. So far, 9 out of 10 or 99 out of 100 patients never ever got the chance even to be exposed to a radioligand therapy as a treatment option if you were not living close to a center or your treating doctor was a university friend of a nuclear medicine doctor. It was not in the regular path. And we see that as well in the majority of patients, that if we look at patients, and I'm sorry for the drastic numbers here, but if you look at patients dying of prostate cancer, for example, in Europe, 7, 8 out of 10 never had a PET scan. They were never even considered or exploring whether this would be the right option because it's just not on the path. I think overall underlying behind that is we need, not only within nuclear medicine, but within the broader medical community, re-agree and recontract what is radioligand therapy and what is its contribution to cancer management. So that actually all these other doctors that treat these patients so far but don't have a soft spot for radioligand therapy still become more aware, and there is a stronger alignment on who should get it at what time.
So these are very, very important points, and let us dig a little bit deeper. So Andrei, from all the points we heard, we know that imaging is available in the US, it's reimbursed, therapy is reimbursed. But what about workforce and especially patient referral, as just mentioned by Leo? How is this a problem in the US, and how can you tackle it?
Yes, it is. And, the other thing that I want to add to what I just said is that because of the length of time, by the time you're ready with a center, you already need to start thinking about the next iteration, because technology doesn't stop evolving, regulations don't stop evolving. So it's a continuum. Just because you're done with one thing, it doesn't mean you're ready, right? The readiness state, I don't know how you see it, Leo, but it's kind of a continuum movement, symbol I should say. And the goal is really to bring our therapies to the patient, not to ask the patients to travel long distances to come where we can offer these treatments. Back to your question, Ken. Yes, absolutely. There's been, and you're very well aware, a decade plus ago, people did not want to be trained in nuclear medicine because there were few jobs and there were not a lot of prospects. And there was a valley of how many people entered training. And we're now paying the price for that, in that there's a gap in generations of physicians who are properly trained in the US. Right now, there's a lot of interest every year when we recruit for a residency program. We have multiple applications for a single spot, but it was not always the case. And it takes time to build up the workforce. And let's not talk just about physicians. Where are the technologists who are going to help us with all the scans and all of that? Where are the nurses who are going to help us administer these treatments? Where are the physicists, the chemists, etc.? So workforce is a major issue, but it's being addressed. You know, there's a workforce pipeline task force at SMI. I'm sure JNM has similar approaches to recruiting new talent into the field. These young professionals are seeing the excitement that's happening, so they are themselves excited. If you go to all the major meetings, it's so refreshing to see a lot of young people, smart people getting into the field. It will not happen instantly. It will take some time. So how do we bridge the gap in this interim?
Thank you, Andrei. And Désirée, workforce is clearly also a problem in Europe, but also we just heard from Leo that access to imaging is a challenge. So is this also a problem in France from your point of view? And how do you address these challenges?
So access to imaging is the first step to treat patients. This means that for selecting patients, we really need a PET scan, but also we have to take into account that we need also the SPECT-CT for post-therapeutic evaluation. So we need to think of access to imaging as a whole. So we work a lot on that. It depends. The delay to have a PET scan or PSMA PET scan, for example, for patients can be quite long in different centers. So we really need to optimize the workflow and to organize our work every day to give a rapid access to treatment to patients. This means that we really need to have some specific framework and to verify the framework. So we need to have a plan to organize our job every day together with all the teams. As Andrei also said, technologists, radiopharmacists, we really need to optimize all the steps that we do and try to, for example, organize dedicated slot for theranostics in our planning every day, because we perform a lot of PET scan every day for many indications, but we need to create a dedicated workflow for theranostics. So we work a lot on that, on PET imaging planning, to try to have specific patient journey, dedicated slots for patient selection and also evaluation of therapy. So this is a work that in each center everyone can do with together with all the team.
And the workforce topic?
For the workforce, of course, we need really trained teams. So as Andrei said, we need physicians, physicists, radiopharmacists, technologists, and nurses. So nuclear medicine physicians now are very interested in the radioligand therapy, but they really need to be ready. We should increase, I think, during time, places and training of physician when we will have a lot of patients to treat. So we really need to be attractive in nuclear medicine at the beginning, already at the School of Medicine, to be sure that nuclear medicine is known, and then people can choose nuclear medicine as a really high opportunity of career in their life. So there are many opportunity, many initiative from JNM, for example, that can really help to increase attractiveness of nuclear medicine. And so we really need that people and students love nuclear medicine since the beginnings of their career.
It's absolutely true. And Leo, I think nothing you have heard takes you by surprise right now. My question to you is twofold. One, how can Novartis help? And the second thing is Novartis is a big player, not only in radioligand therapy, also an innovator in CAR-T and gene therapy. And I'm sure there are certain things you have experienced there which might be possible to actually help us in tackling the challenges in radioligand therapy. So
for us as Novartis, we really try to partner here with healthcare systems. And what does that mean? We want to give frameworks that allow to assess how big for a certain area the bottleneck is and where the bottlenecks are. We actually made all of this information public. You can check it out, Radioligand Therapy, IQVIA Institute, then you get actually access to all the data in Europe where we assess healthcare system readiness. Specific talking, but this is, of course, the awareness, and danger detected, unfortunately, does not always mean danger averted. So that's why we are trying to partner directly as well. So we're having, for example, a collaboration with JNM on a project called Inspire that basically goes to the medical schools, or is planning to go to the medical schools, and go directly to the source of talent and try to recruit people there and enthuse them for nuclear medicine. We're working as well, we're partners of ECHO, the European Cancer Organization, where we then tackle the same issue through the policies and working with the governments to actually upgrade the priority and the needs there and actually provide more content on nuclear medicine in the curricula, as well as having increasing the numbers of slots in that space. And ultimately, of course, for training, Novartis is actually part of the RLT Academy, which is a public-private partnership between the European Commission, and it's actually fully paid by the European Commission to actually develop content and curricula that really can educate and a new generation of nuclear medicine doctors. So that's on the workplace. What can we learn about CAR-T and gene therapy and so on? Well, first of all, we can learn we better don't screw it up, because if we actually get it wrong and a doctor that is intrigued by the new concept struggles to get a treatment slot for their patient, they will do that once, they will try it a second time, and then they will never try it again, because a doctor that sees a patient every day needs to offer this patient a reliable option. So that's why we need to always make sure that we do this at the right scale, at the right time, so that we have always the capacity. I think this is something maybe in CAR-T where we can learn. It might have worked out in the beginning, but then the whole thing hit a certain ceiling, and then actually it was not as much used and farther scaled as patients could have benefited from it, simply because there was a shortage of ICU beds, a shortage of centers who really could deliver CAR-T close enough to the patients. So from that point of view, let's try to avoid that to repeat that for RLT, because otherwise the unique opportunity and the tipping point that we are right now in bringing this and making this an essential pillar in cancer requires as well that the oncologists can send us all the patients that they think are eligible, and we can actually then manage them and treat them.
Super. So, Andrei, you mentioned correctly that Theranostics gains a certain increased attractiveness recently. And this also goes along with a certain, let's say, interest by other specialties, like, for example, radiation oncology. So you as a nuclear medicine physician in the US, how do you see this increased interest from other specialties?
Well, if I may, maybe I can add something to the CAR-T lessons learned. Our institution was very well known for bone marrow transplant, large numbers. Majority of doctors that used to do bone marrow transplant are now doing CAR-T. So it was a disruptive technology, something that's better for patients, attracted talent into that. How it affected us, you need a PET scan on day 28. So how do you accommodate all those growths? I think there are lessons learned from CAR-T that can help us in theranostics. I think it depends from institution to institution, to come back to your question about interest from other specialties. Here, radiation oncology, radiology, and nuclear medicine were one department until the 80s. So, there's some corporate memory of working well together. And in fact, some of the development of Bexar was pushed together by a physician from radiation oncology, Susan Knox, and a physician from nuclear medicine, Michael Goris. So I don't see it as a threat. I see it as another way to improve access, because in the US, we're graduating 50 nuclear medicine physicians per year. And if you look at the data that's out there from Jeremy and Johannes in the needs of diagnostic centers in the US, who's going to staff all those many centers? I'm not sure that with 50 nuclear medicine physicians per year, we can staff all of them. So I think that as long as you're doing collaboratively, there's expertise to be brought into nuclear medicine uh, by other specialties, like radiobiology is one example of helping us determine what is the optimal dose to be delivered to a tumor if we want to go in that direction. So there's many opportunities to collaborate as long as people respect each other and they play well in the sandbox with each other.
Thank you. Désirée, for you, one question is, in many countries in Europe, we don't really lack nuclear medicine physicians, right? We have a lot of diagnostic experience and presence. However, we do not really have the experience in therapy. How do we quickly close that gap? And what are your lessons learned there?
Yeah. So radioligand therapy is quite a challenge for nuclear medicine since the beginning, because we really need to start to think like also oncologists do, like radiation oncology do. So we can put all together. So the clinics, the patient care, the radiobiologists, the radioprotections, imaging. So we are really a role, I will say, a role from the beginning to the end of the therapy of patients. So we really need to start to train nuclear medicine physicians since the beginning. So they need to spend time with oncologists and also in clinic, for example, to learn internal medicine and the oncologist ways of thinking. So we can do during the residency program, for example, on nuclear medicine physicians. So during the 4 or 5 years, depending on the countries. In France, for example, nuclear medicine physicians have the possibility to spend 6 months, for example, in different clinics, so they can learn. And then, of course, during the time, nuclear medicine physicians has to participate to multidisciplinary board. This is another place where we can learn, and we can, I will say, also share with our colleagues patients' journey, for example, or internal medicine problems, and we can easily become independent then to manage the patient. And then, of course, we need to continue. So I think that there is a continuum training that we need during our career. So also advanced course or some educational program are still very important to be ready from a practical point of view. And the last thing also is sharing experience. So as Andrei said, collaboration among specialties and sharing experience between us will help us, of course, to learn how to manage the patient from the beginning to the end of treatment.
So Désirée, all this is, I think, very important points, well taken, but none of them is a quick fix. So now my question is, going back after you again, what would be a quick fix? How do we get the nuclear medicine physicians who are there up and running to be able to administer therapies? Do you have any ideas?
I think that we really need a specific training during the residency program. So since the beginning, like, because we are doctors 100%, and so we need a mixed training. I mean, from clinical and imaging together. And of course, also radiobiology and radioprotection. So I think that we can be also attractive of physician that students that maybe would have choose other specialties like the clinic. But now we need also to be, I will say, give awareness to all the students that can have access to patients as they do, for example, oncologists or internal medicine. So I think that we're really a specific program, residency program for nuclear medicine physicians since the beginning to be ready during our career to manage patients.
So thank you. And Leo, I mean, it's a very important topic, right? We need to make progress fast. I think normally Novartis competes very hard with the competitors, whoever they are. I think you, and this is something exceptional, you're in a group within Novartis who's actually the other way around. You're actually encouraged to collaborate with everyone. Do you want to spend 1 or 2 sentences on this?
Yes, thank you for flagging this. So Novartis definitely will continue to be very competitive in many areas with our products, but it's not all about products. And indeed, we are the Healthcare System Readiness and Partnership team. We're for our radioligand therapy, a team of 6 people. It shows that there is a significant commitment of Novartis on the above country level behind that. And we are acting completely brand agnostic. We're not specifically collaborating with the competition. We are collaborating with all relevant key healthcare system stakeholders. So, and of course, pharma industry, but as well as med tech are, of course, important players here. And being honest, I'm for 25, 30 years in the industry. Sometimes we're very good in replicating, duplicating, or quadruplicating approaches to solve the same problem that then rather confuse everybody, and at the end the impact is zero. So that's why for the area where it's about completely brand agnostic, pre-competitive settings, it's actually good for everybody to work together to actually have more impact and really shape it. I mean, there is this proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. The child is RLT. We need to raise it, and we are the village. So all of the people here need to work together to make it fly. And it's not the right moment for individuals like one company versus the others of being snobby or competitive where there is no competition, because at the end it comes down to the patient as well. Will they get the chance to get a radioligand therapy? And is the first question. Which radioligand therapy is the second question, and that's where we will keep competing, of course.
That's a beautiful summary. I think this is really also the spirit of this podcast. I want to thank the 3 of you for making this happen. We have actually the big goal that hopefully after the podcast, everyone knows what healthcare system readiness stands for. I can also raise awareness that there will be sessions on this on ESMO, also at JNM, most likely also at SNMI. And before I really conclude this podcast and say thank to you, I want to also raise awareness for the T-shirt of Andrei. So this is your chance now to mention one sentence why this is such an exciting T-shirt.
Well, it's Stanford's Pride Month support, and we do this every year with a different type of T-shirt. If I may end optimistically here, I would quote Simon Cherry, who a couple of years in a plenary session concluded his talk saying it's only a matter of time. So I really believe that it's only a matter of time until we fix this and RLT will be available to our patients.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and thanks to Sophie for sponsoring this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe.